I was supposed to trust her. She was my best friend, after all. We had shared everything with each other through the years, our hopes, our dreams, and even our darkest secrets. I never thought for a second that she would betray me in such a way. It started innocently enough. My husband and I were going through a rough patch, just like any married couple does from time to time. Our careers were demanding, and we hardly had any time for each other anymore. The spark between us seemed to be fading. And then he met her. Her name was Emma, my best friend. They ran into each other at a work conference and discovered that they had so much in common. They started having lunch together, talking on the phone regularly, and it seemed like they were becoming really good friends. At first, I was happy for them both. It was nice to see my husband connecting with someone again, especially since things between us were so strained. But as the weeks went by, I started to notice something different about their relationship. There was an intensity there that made me uncomfortable. I tried talking to my husband about it, but he dismissed my concerns. He told me that they were just friends and that I was overreacting. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. One night when my husband was out of town for work, I decided to confront Emma about what I had been feeling. We met up for dinner at our favorite restaurant and made small talk until I couldn't hold it in any longer. "Do you have feelings for my husband?" I blurted out suddenly. Emma looked taken aback by my question but quickly recovered her composure. "What are you talking about?" "Of course not," she responded defensively, but there was something in her eyes that told me otherwise. "I can see it," I said quietly. "The way you look at him, the way you talk about him, there's something there, and it's not just friendship." Emma sighed and looked down at her plate. "Okay, maybe I have developed some feelings for him," she admitted reluctantly. "But it's complicated, and I would never do anything to come between you two." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But deep down, I knew that wasn't the whole truth. A few days later, my husband came home from his work trip acting strange. He was distant and avoided making eye contact with me. I could tell that something was off. That night, after we had gone to bed, he finally confessed. "I've been having an affair," he said quietly. The words hit me like a punch in the gut. I felt like the wind had been knocked out of me. "With who?" I managed to choke out through my tears. He hesitated for a moment before answering. "With Emma." My heart shattered into a million pieces at that moment. The two people in the world that I trusted the most had betrayed me in the worst possible way. I kicked my husband out of our house that night and told him not to come back until he figured out what he wanted. And then I turned my attention to Emma, my former best friend who had become my worst enemy. I was done playing nice. It was time for revenge. After several days of crying on my couch while eating ice cream straight from the tub, a classic breakup move, I decided it was time for revenge on Emma. But not just any revenge, sexual revenge. My husband had always fantasized about having a threesome with another woman, so why not make that fantasy come true? Only instead of both of us pleasuring him together like he had envisioned way too many times during sex, seriously so annoying, this time it would be all about pleasuring me, with Emma as the accessory. First, I would need to buy a few things. More specifically, something like a strap-on and some handcuffs. And maybe a blindfold for good measure. I'd also have to do some research on how exactly one operates a strap-on. After a quick internet search let me know that most of these shops close their doors at 10 p.m. I grabbed my purse and hurried off to make my purchase before it was too late. When I arrived at the store, it took me a full 5 minutes of sitting in my car outside, feeling like an idiot, to gather up the courage to step inside. For whatever reason, These stores had always made me feel super awkward and uncomfortable, even though I knew that everyone else there was just as horny and dysfunctional as I was. Once inside, I went straight to the bondage section and picked out a pair of sturdy metal handcuffs that looked like they could be used for more than just handcuffing someone. Then after wandering around aimlessly for several minutes until my face started turning red from embarrassment, I finally asked one of the employees where they kept their strap-ons, a question which felt extremely weird to say out loud. She led me over to the section and gave me an odd look before walking away, probably used to meeting all types of weirdos while working here. I ended up buying 2 different size dildos because who knew what size would be best? Definitely not me. And then just when I thought my shopping trip couldn't get any more embarrassing, the cashier hit me with this. "You must be having an exciting night." As soon as those words left her mouth, every single drop of blood in my body rushed straight to my face. It took everything in me not to run out of the store right then and there. "Yeah, you could say that," I mumbled awkwardly before grabbing the bag with my purchases and speed walking out of there. I couldn't wait to get home, hide all these new toys from my children, and come up with a plan for how exactly this night was going to go down. Once I got home, I spent the next several hours deep cleaning every inch of my house. Somehow, it just didn't feel right to get down and dirty in a place where children live. It felt important that Emma's screams of ecstasy would be the first sounds echoing off these freshly scrubbed walls. After making sure everything was perfect, including myself, I settled onto the couch to wait for her arrival. I could hear the faint sound of a car pulling into my driveway, followed by footsteps on my porch. My heart started racing as I realized that Emma was finally here and there was no turning back now. I hurriedly arranged the toys on the coffee table in front of me, the small one and one large, along with the handcuffs and blindfold. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves. This was it. The front door slowly creaked open and Emma stepped inside, looking slightly nervous but also excited. "Hey," she said cautiously. "You wanted to see me? What's going on?" I gestured for her to sit down on the couch next to me. "We need to talk," I said firmly. Emma's eyes widened with surprise. "Okay, what about?" she asked hesitantly. I stared at her for a moment, letting the tension build. Then I reached over and grabbed her wrist, pulling it towards me so that she could see the handcuffs lying on the table between us. "I think you know what this is about," I said quietly. Emma's eyes flickered between my face and the handcuffs, comprehension slowly dawning on her. "You know, I've always wanted to try something like this," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I never thought, with you." I smirked at her, feeling a surge of confidence. "Well, tonight's your lucky night," I said. "But first, let's get you properly dressed for the occasion." I reached over and grabbed the blindfold, holding it up for her to see. "I want you to put this on," I instructed. "And then I want you to strip." Slowly. Emma's eyes widened with anticipation as she took the blindfold from my hand and placed it over her eyes. Then she slowly began to unbutton her blouse, one button at a time, revealing more and more of her creamy white skin underneath. As she continued undressing, I could feel myself growing desire. There was something incredibly erotic about being in control like this, about knowing that I had the power to make Emma do whatever I wanted. Once Emma was completely naked, I gestured for her to stand up and turn around so that I could get a good look at her from every angle. "Beautiful," I murmured approvingly. "Now come here and kneel in front of me." Emma obediently dropped to her knees on the floor. I was in total control of her and I was not hesitant to make use of it. 2 hearts were pounding in my chest, one eager to punish Emma for what she had done to me and my marriage. But there was another part too, A part that was curious like a child, trying out something that seems a bit forbidden. In that night both of these hearts were satisfied. It was a rush commanding Emma around and let her do everything I wanted for my pleasure and her punishment. It was deeply satisfying on both ends. After I was pleased we both were lying together when Emma asked, "How often do we have to do this now until I get what I deserve?" So it was settled to become a regular meeting between the two of us. It was a very important experience for both of us. Even though she destroyed my marriage this night, and all of the following ones did at least save our friendship. And who knows, it might also bring me closer to my husband again, since Emma and I decided to invite him to one of our next meetings and get my revenge for his part in this story.